This has happened before, actually, in KZN. One of the worst flooding we've seen in KZN was in April of 2019, and we've put together some statistics for you just to remind you how this has happened before. Now, if you look at the next page, you'll see, as the viewers, that in April 2019, in fact, during this exact time, between the 18th and the 22nd of April, the Easter long weekend, the same happened in KZN, and it was the same cause. It was torrential rain due to cut-off low pressure systems. We were also told by the South African Weather Service at the time that 165 millimeters of rain fell over the city of Durban. And of course, we were told that this broke the previous record in 2017 of 108 millimeters. We don't have any information yet from the South African Weather Service as to how it's looking this time. But if you look at the next page, we've seen these sad situations unfolding. It's not the first time. These are the areas that were affected by the flooding at that time, even areas like Amanzimtoti. And if you've just tuned in, I'll remind you how my colleague Desin Tathia has also, as well as Siphamandla Goke, have also described how even areas such as Amanzimtoti, homes that are looking over the beachfront, have been evacuated. People who are living there have been told to leave. There was also Port Edwards, of course, and parts of the Eastern Cape were also affected during that time. Your Paddock and Margate as well, and of course the King Shaka International Airport. And we were told that there were some flights that could not actually leave the area because, or rather fly at that time because of the weather there. Now on the next page you'll see some of what government did, or rather the death toll because of the impact. In the beginning, on the 25th of April, the Premier came out to say the death toll had gone from 51 to 70 at the time. And that at least 1,000 people were left displaced, people going missing, etc. But later that day, the MEC of Kokta coming back to say, in fact, 85 people at that time had passed away due to the flooding there. So that is why at the moment, government is saying 60 people have died in these recent floods, but they are not ruling out the possibility of the death toll rising. You saw my colleague, senior reporter Siphamandla Goke, speaking to the family of those 4 children who died under the rubble of their home when it collapsed. Now, in the next page, we're going to show you how government reacted to what was happening. You might remember that National Treasury, just like this time, gave the green light for emergency funds to be released. KZN was also declared a disaster area. Of course, the president was supposed to be going on a Troika summit to Egypt, but he had to cancel that and make his way to KZN to assess the damage, as he has done this time. He had no trip this time, or international trip, but of course he's had to go back to KZN. So as you can see, this has happened before. The SANDF immediately deployed to assist with food relief, and of course we saw a snippet that we played here on eNCA by the SANDF chief telling us how they've been affected as well, with some of their flights not being able to go through to KZN. Now, if you look at what we're seeing here, is that the damage, the cost that is still supposed to be tallied this time around. In 2019, 650 million rand was estimated to be needed. But I'm hearing my colleagues tell me that the president is in fact visiting a family that is expected to, he's expected to visit the family that Siphamandla Goke is with at the moment in Claremont. That is the family, of course, that has lost 4 young children in one night. The father, Babu Nyembe, the grandfather that Siphamandla Goke was speaking to, telling us that the 4 young children were unable to escape when the house collapsed because of the flooding. As you can see there, the president arriving at that home. He is, of course, with the Premier, Sihle Zigalala. According to Babu Nyembe, who was speaking to Siphamandla Goke, he has seen this before. He says in 1974, a huge rock fell over a home after a heavy flooding in the area. That rock fell over one house and 2 children there passed away. But he says to Siphamandla Goke, it was not as bad as it was there this time around, or rather this time around. He says this time many homes have been affected, while during that time it was only that one particular house. So we're talking 1974, and as you saw with the information we gave you about the flooding that happened in 2019, this has happened before. And of course, people die all the time. So the question always is what exactly the government is doing to try and minimize the impact, because it looks like every time it happens, it becomes worse. So the president is there in Claremont and KZN. He is going to pay his respects along with Premier Sihlezi Galala to that family, as you can hear, very emotional, with the grandmother still crying. Very emotional scenes there in Claremont. They can't even, wait for the president inside a home. They've lost their home and all their belongings, so they have to receive the president and all those government officials outside while looking at the rubble that has become what used to be their home. Very sad scenes in KZN. I think that is either a community leader rather, or a family member that is there, probably just updating the president and the premier exactly what happened, what they saw. As far as we understand, with regards to the interview that Siphamandla Goke did with Ubaba Nyembe earlier on in this bulletin, is that this happened on Monday evening. He says what made the situation worse is the fact that electricity went out at the same time, so it became dark. The house started to collapse. The children were in a different house because their parents have, as he says, and as he told Siphamandla, have actually hired 2 homes which were very close to each other. All right, let's try and listen in to what the man is telling the president and the premier at the moment.
Yeah, we are on the outside.
Silana umndeni wakaSokhele sihamba ne-leadership njengose ngishilo, but khona ubaba uKhawunda umeya, khona usekela meya, ubaba uMavundla nobaba uMadlala sihlalo kwe-region ye-ANC. Sibonge futhi umama ukhansela uMadlala olokhe eyithwale kunzima. Sithi umndeni wakaSokhele sinani, umongameli uthe akeze uma esizwa lesimo esinzima kangaka wathi akeze ngokwakhe ukuzoba nathi kulesi simo esisehlele kwaZulu Natal esibuhlungu kanje. Ngizocela-ke ukuthi sidedele umongameli abingelele emndenini adlulise amazwi egameni likahulumeni. Kodwa manje ngimdedela ngisho nje ukuthi azini ukuthi kukho konke sinani sizozama ukubambisana nani kukhona konke from umnyango from umasipala to iminyango ehlukahlukene njengomnyango waka-social development usufikile neminye iminyango ekhona sizokwenza konke okusemandleni ukubambisana nani kulolu okubuhlungu kangako kunivelele nazi nathi sinani. Cela ukudedela umongameli ubaba President uRamaphosa.
Ngiyabonga Premier wethu ubaba uZikalala. Ngimbingelele nonke abantu bala njengoba nisenibona ngihamba nezinye inkokheli zikahulumeni, umama uNkosazana udokotela uNkosazana Dlamini-Zuma, umeya wethu baba Kaunda, nabanye abaholi bikahulumeni, ngibona noMinister uGungubele okupresidency, nabanye abasebenza nobaba uZikalala bakhona la nabo ama-MEC. Ngithe mangizwa lento le abantu baseKwaZulu Natal ngathi kumama uDlamini-Zuma ngathi ngiyeza ngatshela noPremier wethu uZikalala ngathi ngizongena endleleni ngize namhlanje ngizosibonela ukuthi abantu bala KwaZulu Natal bayehlelwe yini na. Uma emhlanganweni njengamanje nabo baye bangichazela isimo esikhona lapha KwaZulu Natal. Ngempela ngisibona sisibi kakhulu, nehlelwe ingozi enkulu edlula nezinye ingozi esike sazibona. Isikhathi besicabanga nje ukuthi into enehlele la wonke lama-district alapha eKwaZulu Natal, into ezenzeka mhlambe kwamanye amazwe oMozambique oZimbabwe, kodwa nathi sehlele. So baye bangichazela-ke ngokubanzi bangitshela ukuthi endaweni eziningi kumosheke kangakanani nabo. Eyona into ebuhlungu kakhulu ukuthi kushone abantu abaningana, izindlu zabo zizidlekile, itrada, amabroko manje naleli sonto elabhivika lamosha nendlu kwaba nengozi. So sitheke masize nalapha sizozibonela ngokwethu ukwenzela ukuthi sibone ukuthi uhulumeni uzokwazi ukuthi ancede kanjani, ancede kuphi na. Eyona into ekhona ukuthi ngiyajabula ukuthi uPremier nalabo asebenza nabo, umeya wethu nalabo asebenza nabo sebahlela izinto eziningi, and futhi le ngozi iwela ngaphansi kaKokta, ngaphansi kwamama uDlamini-Zuma. Nabo ke sizosebenza nabo bonke, uhulumeni wonke uzobambisana izandla ukuthi sibone ukuthi le ngozi enehlele ukuthi sisebenza kanjani ukuncedisa abantu kakhulu labo abalahlekelwe izindlu, abantu abanayo nendawo yokuhlala. Sizoya kwenye indawo lapho siyobona abantu laba kufakwe khona eholweni. So yonke leyo misebenzi isayenza uhulumeni, sizayenza yonke indlela ukuthi sibone ukuthi sinceda kanjani. So sithi njengoba uPremier esho anihambi nodwa kule ndlela, sizawuhamba nani kule ndlela, kule ngozi enigcwelele. Sizawunceda ngazo zonke indlela esingakwazi ukuthi sincede ngazo. Sithi inhliziyo zenu siyazi ukuthi ngempela sibuhlungu ngale ngozi enehlelelayo. Nani inhliziyo yami ebuhlungu kakhulu. That's why ngiye ngathi noma ngize ngizozibonela ngokwami ukwenzela ukuthi sibone ku-national government ukuthi singanceda kanjani na. Uncedo lona luzoba khona. Sithi-ke inhliziyo zenu noma zibuhlungu, sithi-ke sinani ngaso sonke isikhathi. Sizohamba le ndlela nani, sizohamba kwezinye indawo siyobuka ukuthi kumosheke kangakanani na, ukwenzela ukuthi sikwazi ukuthi uncedo luzoba khona, luzoba uncedo olunjani. So ngibonga kakhulu ukuthi nisinike nethuba ukuthi sizozibonela, sikwazi ukuhlangana nani, sizwe ukuthi kwenzeke njani. Ubaba wayesechazile kancane, sesizwile ukuthi le ngozi enehleleka yenzeke nini na, yenzeke kanjani. Ngiyabonga kakhulu ukuthi ningamukele nalabo engihamba nabo ukuthi sibe phakathi kwenu. Ngibonge kakhulu.
Siyabonga Mongameli. Masisho emndenini asambile uma nibona nangu khansela nize nazi thina ukhansela uMadala uzolokhu ekhona. Ukhansela ke usebenza nathi sonke uzokwazi ukureporta kubaba umeya ngokusheshsha, nathi size sibe khona sibe nani kukhona konke. Siyazazi idingo njengomongameli ethi sosebenza kho konke. Siyazi nidinga indawo, nidinga ukudla, nidinga impahla zokumbatha, amanzi nakho konke. Sizobambisana nani kukhona konke. Ngingadedela nje ubaba egameni lomndeni mhlawumbe adlulisa amazwi kumongameli.
Sibonga kakhulukazi asuke la ekhona hleli uzakhe zonke azobana nathi. Sehlelwe isimo esinye abantu angekho kusasisa nje, kodwa ke sekuyihlekelela yonke into. So-ke ukubonga nje ukwazi ukuthi sonke ndawo umongameli uyathinteka, baba mawethu uthinteke. Sizobonga kakhulu ukube sesozozwa
awusazi ukuthi ukhansela wethu. Ngiyabonga kakhulu ukuthubela phakathi
Right, that is President Cyril Ramaphosa visiting the Sokele family in Claremont in KZN. They've lost 4 children due to the floods. It's according to the grandfather or the neighbor who lives there, the house collapsed and the children had no time to escape. So unfortunately, it became, an operation of recovering the bodies instead of trying to save them. He is there with the eThekwini Mayor, Mxolisi Kaunda, of course, the Premier of KZN, Sihle Zigalala. He is also with COCTA Minister Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, the chairperson, the incumbent chairperson of the eThekwini Municipal District, Zandile Kumete, is also there, and of course a minister in the presidency, Mondli Gungubele. What we heard from the president is, of course, him telling the family that he is sorry for what they're going through. He decided to make his way to KZN as soon as he realized that the situation there is getting worse. As you can see there with a bit of visual and sound that we're giving you, the president going back into his state vehicle, and the people in KZN seemingly embracing him and his presence. They're waving at him. But of course, at the end of the day, it's a sad situation for the family members who have lost those 4 young children. You also see, those children in school uniform. We found out earlier today from the Education MEC in that province that 2 children passed away due to, trying to cross over a swollen river to try and get to school. We know that the Education Department in that province has also advised schools to keep closed, possibly until next week. That's what they told my colleagues Shahan Ramkisoon and Sally Badet last night, that they would try, they would probably only return fully to school from next week. There's the president driving off in his state vehicle. He is expected to visit many other areas to assess the damage and the situation. We know that National Treasury has given him the green light and has said that it will make funds available for the situation in KZN. It has, by the provincial COCTA department, been declared a disaster area. But of course, we'll hear from Minister Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma later today if, as national COCTA, they support that. And I assume they would. This has happened before. The president telling the family there, the Sokale family, that he is sorry for their loss and that he is hoping that their hearts are soothed and that the government will try and assist them as much as they can in terms of laying those 4 children to rest. We heard from the family member that they in fact don't have the money to lay 4 people to rest so suddenly. So we will continue with coverage as the president moves from one place to another in KZN. For the meantime, though, as we continue with our coverage, people are trying to piece their lives back together after the devastating rains in KZN. Those who don't have